Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, and today we are deep diving into one of the most exciting events on the UK and international swimming calendar, the AP Race London International.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, who better to give us the inside scoop than Ed Baxter, the managing director of AP Race? I mean, Ed is no stranger to this podcast. We've had him on a couple of times now, so hopefully he doesn't need much of an introduction by now, but I think it's best that we jump straight into previewing the weekend of fast racing.
Yeah, now before we have this preview conversation with Ed, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder that the Propulsion Swimming Podcast is brought in partnership with One Flow Aquatics in Summer Bay, the newest destination for your warm weather training camps on the Red Sea in Egypt. And you can book your training camp now with Sports Abroad by following the link in the show notes of this podcast. Okay, welcome back onto the podcast, Ed. We don't really need to give you too much of an introduction because you've multiple guests multiple times onto the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, but before we jump into the bulk of this episode, previewing racing, fan engagement, growth of the AP Race London International, I'd first love for you to give me like the tagline, the sales pitch for the AP Race London International in a nutshell, like as quick as you can.
God, you put me on the spot. That's a good question. I think we've got three really clear goals, and we've said it from the first year we launched in 2023. Spectator engagement, create a fan experience that if you're interested in swimming, you can come and watch and be really engaged in competitive swimming. Athlete and coach experience, create a competition that's competitive, provides higher prize money, and also gives coaches a really good experience of exposure and learning opportunities. And then grassroots inspiration. We always talk about it, something Adam's really passionate about as well, is just ensuring that the next level of athlete, whether you're learning to swim at the minute, whether you're at club level, you can kind of see some of the fastest athletes in the world competing, and you can aspire to be just like them. So I think spectator engagement, athlete and coach experience, and grassroots inspiration.
Do any one of those three stand out above the others?
Oh, God, too straight away off the bat. I think spectator engagement is a really big one for me. We've got a great team that really has done such a good job with engaging international teams, and I think this year we've got 25 countries that are racing at the AP Race London International, so we've got great representation. But I think the big thing that swimming as a whole needs is just more spectator engagement, and really understanding that swimming is the second most watched sport in the world at the Olympics. 1 billion people watch Paris 2024. But if you look on a day-to-day basis, there are those spectating opportunities even where you can say, actually, I'm going to go to the swimming this weekend. So the big thing for us, I think, and definitely my big focus, is ensuring that spectators have an opportunity to watch really good swimming, because we know we can put on a great experience for swimmers and coaches. It's what we do. We know that grassroots athletes will be inspired by watching these world-class athletes compete. But I think the really big one for me is getting people through the doors. And I think this year we're definitely on for our kind of highest spectator numbers, but it's about getting people in the door and saying, look, this is the side of swimming that can be created, and here it is to engage with.
Is that what makes the international stand out then? Like, we went first year, we couldn't do last year because it was family milestones in the background. Is that what makes it stand out then? Because like the landscape of competitive swimming at a club level in this country is very crowded. Like, it is a crowded market. But how do you draw, like, you've obviously talked about international swimmers bringing them over, but how do you make it stand out from open meets and saying, like, clubs come to this, like, really engage with this and bring a full team of swimmers to it? Is it, look, there's stands full of fans wanting to watch?
I think, do you know what? I think it's very different this year compared to what it's been like before. 2023 and 2024 was a battle to get people to engage and really see the value of the meet. There's the European circuit and Mare Nostrums that have always been kind of so historic, and everyone's kind of raced there, and a new competition coming into that schedule, and we directly clash with one of the stops in the Mare Nostrum. It's always been a challenge to people to see the benefits of it, and 2023 I think we had 340 competitors across the whole weekend, which is super low numbers for anyone that's not super involved in this kind of meet, I guess. But it was a challenge the first couple of years, but this year especially, we've had, as I said before, great support from international teams wanting to come over. The US team landed this morning. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but we're recording on Monday the 19th, so kind of 5 days out from the meet. But 65 athletes from the US landed this morning, but we started that conversation in March 2024. They've identified that meet early, but also we need to give a huge kind of thank you, I guess, to GB Aquatics, and because that meet has been a target for the World Championships team. I know everyone at the European Juniors team has been recommended that they should race here as well, and I know the British champs, just 1 month ago, when Aquatics GB were doing that kind of coaches briefing and explaining around the goals of, I guess, the new vision for Aquatics GB. Now, obviously, Steve Tibbs in the position as head coach, they identified the AP Race London International as a key meet for this country. So, of course, we've got great kind of international representation that's been built up over a couple of years of good shows. But, Aquatics GB kind of buying into it and saying to local clubs and the high performance swimmers within this country that it's a meet that's really important to them has made a huge difference as well. So I guess there's a couple of different aspects, and this year's very different to the previous 2 years.
How so? How is it different compared to last year?
I think it's just that buy-in. The first year we had 340 athletes enter. Last year we had 540, and it was kind of a recommended meet, but not kind of a mandatory meet. And this year we've had, I think we're at 850 confirmed athletes racing, and that's completely maxed. Like, we can't fit any more swimmers into the schedule. And this year, unfortunately, we've had to make a lot of rejections. So I think we were well over 900 athletes that entered, and anyone outside the consideration times this year was rejected. So it's just kind of that, mandating it for the World Championships team is a huge step forwards. And like I said, the international buy-in has been a massive step for us as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, while the whole World Champs team is there, how important is it that you're attracting the biggest names in the world and not necessarily... I know when you first started, it was funding bringing swimmers over to try and get them and help boost ticket sales and get other swimmers through the door. But now, is it reaching the point when you're truly attracting swimmers that just want to come and just want to come race against, the British squad ahead of Singapore?
100%. So, the first couple of years we had a budget that was allocated for, funding travel and accommodation expenses for some international athletes, and we had amazing buy-in. And I want to give a special shout out to Mark Faber from... previously he was with the Netherlands team, now he's with the Belgian team, but, we'd always kind of supported him to come, and he had such massive buy-in, and, he sent me a really nice email a couple of weeks ago saying, how he had experienced the meet, and now he's with a new federation that it's still a really important part of his calendar. So, this year we've helped support one athlete in terms of their accommodation and travel, and it's Ricky from Japan. As she was part of, she trains with Mel Marshall, which obviously now Mel's in Australia. But Mel's obviously been a huge part of mine and Adam's journey through swimming. Mel said, Ricky would love to race at the meet, and is there anything we can do? And of course, it's really important for us to kind of support what Mel wants for her training group as well still. So, Ricky's the only athlete we've kind of given any formal support to, I guess. And that's also paid dividends, because obviously Ricky's such a huge inspirational character from her own journey. But, the biggest TV network in Japan is already down at London today. And I think I welcome them today to film. They're creating a documentary around Ricky. So, we've been really fortunate this year that the teams that typically previously we've needed to allocate budget for travel expenses and accommodation, we haven't needed to, which means we can invest more in the production and the branding side of things and making the event even better.
I was going to say, it's a nice kind of sustainable place to finally get to, because I know the first few years, from speaking to you behind the scenes, it was stress. Like, all this money going out the door for this meet, and suddenly, it's kind of feeling a little bit like paid dividends. Like, it's coming through a little bit. I don't know if you'll feel like it until the weekend's done.
Yeah, there's definitely no relaxing until the weekend's done. But I think we did obviously a podcast in, I think, maybe November or December last year, and we were probably the first time we've been really transparent and open around the finances. But in 2023, I think Meet lost £50,000. And last year, we had a couple of sponsors unfortunately drop out a couple of months before it, and we lost £30,000 last year. And this year the goal is to break even, hopefully get into that green zone where, again, it allows us to really invest in making that product even better. So this year, we've introduced junior prize money for the first time. We've always had a big prize pot allocated for the senior athletes, but we want to attract the best junior athletes, because it's really important for them to race in this environment as well, and to them understand the pressures of racing in an environment with 2,000 people in the stands. Often people don't get that until they arrive at an Olympics or World Championships.
Yeah.
So we all know how important that kind of arena skill set is, and the more and more we can create that environment and put people into that, the better.
And who doesn't love racing for cash?
Yeah, who doesn't love it? Yeah.
So there's definitely a budget to try and attract swimmers over, because I kind of see it, like you say, Mare Nostrum kind of clashes on one of the stops. So how do you try and entice, if you like, to get swimmers to race at the international rather than Mare Nostrum or other meets happening across the world?
There's big support for the Mare Nostrum, financially.
There is.
If you're an Olympian, you get a decent amount of funding to go.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to athletes, and you said, you're going to come and race this year, and they've said actually no, because the individual support isn't as substantial as you might think, but it's just enough to kind of drag them away from Army and go to Mare Nostrum. But I think the big thing that we've done is just create that experience, and coaches are always going to be on that borderline. What's the very best from athletes for their performance in 6 weeks' time when they go to the World Championships? And actually, an athlete saying, I can make €1,000 if I go and race at this meet. I think we're probably on that borderline now where the show and the event kind of outweighs what a lot of athletes see as an individual benefit. And the coach says, actually, if you want that high level performance, you have to race at this meet because that's where you're going to get the best exposure. So I think we're really fortunate that we've really built that experience over the last 2 years, and that's why we were okay to kind of lose £80,000 over the last 2 years with this event. Just so
reasonably okay.
Okay to lose 80k, yeah.
I'd say okay, but how we could justify kind of losing it because we knew that we'd create pace, and obviously we've got a great relationship with the London Aquatic Centre and Everyone Active, who we know we've got that event in place for a long time and years to come, so we know that can kind of be repaid.
Is there any want to take it abroad at all? Like, take it elsewhere? Like, do you, like? Actually, we had a podcast that actually never went out because of the craziness that's been going on in our lives, and we were talking about the Tier Pro Series out in America and how great each stop of that is, and there's world records being hit. Is that something you envision, like for the UK or European circuit, or? It
is. It's really difficult to say the route it'll go. I think I've got 3 really clear things in my mind that where we want to take it, and it's almost deciding of exactly what that is. I think what we've done is we've created a really special event that we put everything into. I think we went, a 3-stop series in the UK and 3 of the biggest pools in the UK. I think that would be diluted. Part of me has this thing inside me that says actually maybe we should try and target 3 Olympic venues across the world, and let's say London, Paris, and somewhere else, and actually build what we've built with Adam in the UK with another athlete in their home Olympic pool, and see what we could do from that side of things. But I think 2026 probably will stay just with London, but I would imagine in 2027 I can really anticipate there being a 2 or 3 stop part of that tour.
Nice.
And you want to keep it as a 3-day meet, or are you looking to try and extend it to, let's say, a week long, potentially like a champs kind of thing?
Do you know what, we were having this conversation the other day just because of the volume of entries, and actually we're just constrained, and obviously it's difficult, right? Because you want to give everyone the very best opportunity to race, and you don't want to reject people, because the more people that race, the better it is for the event as a whole, and the better it is for those participants that get the opportunity to race. But I think 3 days is a sweet spot, and we're quite fortunate that we always place it on that bank holiday weekend. And we were having a conversation last week of should we move it to Friday instead of Monday? But actually, Friday we won't get the fans in, we won't get a spectator. It's actually Saturday and Monday are our highest attendance, pretty much exactly the same. Sunday's slightly lower by 100 tickets or so, but having that bank holiday Monday is really nice for us. And I think 3 days is, if we spoke to the event team, they're going to say 3 days is more than enough. But how we go through the years.
Let's talk some racing then. So what personally are you looking forward to in the pool? Like any highlight swims? Because I've got a few that I've just circled already, just looking at the programme. What are you most looking forward to?
They're mostly on racing? Sunday, funnily enough, as well.
Sunday.
Saying that the
Sunday's
tickets aren't
fun.
as big on the other days. Interesting.
Do you know what it is? It's so strange because you have individual athletes that obviously you're really proud that are at the meet. So it's amazing. We've got Lucas Martins, for example. He's just been the first man ever to go under 340 for free, and we all know how kind of prestigious that world record's been, I guess. So you have individual athletes like that you're so happy to have there and feel could do an amazing swim. But then also you've got our sponsored athletes that you're really rooting for. I think the really interesting thing about this is obviously it's like we said before, everyone loves racing for cash, and this dynamic around the aqua points is actually there's some events that are slightly lean more towards to allow you to kind of win those. I was having a conversation with Matt Richards the other week. He was like, well, since the 100 free world record has just been dropped by half a second, I probably haven't got a chance of any prize money this year. You've got these athletes who, Matt's even invested in the company, and I'm for Matt to, be one of those top 5 and top 3 and get some of the big prize money. But actually, he's going world record so far out of reach. And last year, obviously, Harriet broke the British record for her first time, and I think she was 3rd. So she won $2,500. And I was speaking to her a couple of months ago, and she said, I'd love a little rest into it. I think I could be in the first shout for prize money. So, I have no idea if Lucas Myers has gone into ridiculously hard training or if he's been allowed a couple of days of rest to see if he can get close to that again and maybe take 10 grand away as that top prize. So I think there's a lot of different dynamics that I'm looking forward to with the race. Obviously, our sponsored athletes, a couple of huge headliners that we've got, and then also the people from Britain as well who could pop out, like even Ollie Morgan from his swims at
Yeah, yeah.
If he's close to that time again or within half a second, that could be pretty good points.
Yeah, I mean, he loves in-season racing. Like, he's never
does.
really slow at it.
Yeah. Is it difficult to sell an in-season event, since though Worlds is going to be the biggest target for a lot of these swimmers? In fact, all these swimmers. How do you sell it?
Do you know what? I think it's the thing that we worked really hard on. I had a conversation with Adam in 2021, and I said, look, if we want to really build something that is going to leave a legacy past 10, 20, 30 years time, when you're finished with your kind of career within the pool, we need to take it away from Adam PT. It needs to be a brand that people, other people represent. That's why we sponsor other people to represent the brand. And we've worked so hard, invested so much money in AP Race and the ethos of Better Than Yesterday and kind of our brand identity, that I don't think people are buying into an in-season meet. I think they're buying into the brand and wanting to be part of, that journey of being better than yesterday and where swimming can go, and that kind of, obviously you guys came down in 2023 and hopefully, I think, Scott, you said you'd be down on Monday. Hopefully,
Yeah, that Sunday session has me booked a ticket.
Okay, perfect. So Sunday, but we've taken such a huge step up, and I think the feeling that you get at the AP Race London International is that there's a new side of swimming and there's something new coming. So I think people aren't necessarily buying into an in-season meet, but they're buying into the brand and the athletes that are there and wanting to be part of that new kind of. I'll always describe it as a movement, and obviously, I owe so much to Mel, and I remember the first year she kind of brought her athletes to it. She said, you've done such a good job, and the only way I can describe it is that it's a movement. People are here to be part of the movement, and I think that's all we could ever ask for, and it's obviously a great compliment from someone we respect so much.
Yeah, and I think the mantra of Better Than Yesterday, just taking away from times, like just as the fields are getting deeper and deeper. Your year 3, you said you've got a massive amount of swimmers now come in. Like, even just come in to watch fast racing, like junior finals. I don't know what a fast junior swim is these days. I'm a little bit all over the place with it. Yeah. Even in the senior side in season, just because I haven't a clue. But if I want to see a fast race or a head-to-head like men's 53, for example, that's a stacked field with the Dutch team going against the British team and others. I want to see a close race. That's what I'm going for a spectator about. For me, if I have no understanding of the sport of swimming, I don't know Lucas Martins is swimming a fast 4.3, to be honest with you. I just want to see a close race.
I think that's the thing we worked really hard on, especially last year. We kind of took a step with people who aren't involved in swimming coming and watching. We worked with some ticketed agencies and stuff like that in London who are just events in London happening this week.
Yeah.
That dragged people in, and we got essentially the relationship we had is that the tickets that were allocated through their websites, we got feedback back from them, and there was people who had no idea about swimming. Obviously, they'd come because they were slightly interested in it, but the feedback from people who had no idea about swimming was, it was amazing seeing these young kids in these grassroots finals, and then suddenly, there's an Olympic champion in the pool, and that dynamic of just watching, people, sport, like, that's why we love it, because of what it does to you and the way it makes you feel, and I think people buy into that regardless of what event it's at. I think especially almost if you're not too plugged into the technicalities of swimming, and, Lucas Martins has gone 3:42, which is ridiculously fast, but it's 3 seconds slower than the other week, they go, oh my God, he was 3 seconds away from the world record. That's crazy. Yeah. Almost not having that technical side of and knowledge is also really good for the sport. So we work really hard on getting people in who aren't necessarily hardcore swimming fans.
That is the hardest part of swimming, I think, because it's a very sort of step. Closed market, really. If you don't know swimming, then you're not really a fan of it, and so that's the hardest point, I think, to try and get these people in. You seem to be doing the right thing.
Like the super final session, I think helps for that.
It does, actually, it does. It's a bit of it's difficult for the media, though, I think. It's not going to lie.
Apologies. I think, it's like, and the big stats I always talk about, and honestly, we use this across all of our projects. Obviously, the London International is a very small part of the brand as a whole, but in England, there's 15 million people swimming once a week just for health and leisure and enjoyment. There's over 2 million kids learning to swim each week. There's 1 billion people that watch swimming as a spectator sport at the Olympics. We've only got 65,000 registered competitive swimmers in England. There is a clear drop-off point of huge engagement when you're young, when you're past your kind of competitive stage, when you want to watch swimming. But that competitive experience is not good enough. And that's what we're really trying to do with this meet, is create something that someone will race at this meet and go, you know what, I thought this might be my last year in swim, but I'd like to race again next year. And, if we get 10, 20, 30 people to do that and continue swimming in the sport for another year, it's a win for us because that's what we need to do. We're
I
not.
think Masters is growing again, if I'm
Yeah,
honest.
100%. And like people always say that we need more people swimming and learning to swim, which of course we do, but I don't see AP Race's role as engaging people to get into the pool for the first time. I see us as the people that keep people in the pool because we have, I think, 1 in 3 people who are registered competitive swimmers stop each year. So we have a 33% churn rate every year, which is ridiculous. And our biggest goal has to be to retain people. We get millions of kids swimming every year, and obviously we need to get more kids swimming. We need to make sure water safety is a huge point in school and in government and all that kind of stuff. But our job as a brand should be retaining what we've got because we do so incredibly well at the Worlds, at the Olympics, considering how few swimmers we actually have in reality in the country. So I think our biggest point that we need to focus on is retention.
I want to see Dan racing at the AP International Swim. What you didn't see at British Champs was he got 0.7 of close to a PB of 12 years ago in the 53. So I want to see him inspired to go race.
I know, and I took 2 breaths as well. Nightmare. I went in there thinking, right, I'm not going to breathe here, but then took 2 breaths, like shocking. But yeah, that was with no training. That's like 10 years no training. Yeah, so it's not bad. I was never 50 swimmer, mind you. I was 2 and 4, so you need to be quite fit for those events, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe one day we'll see.
3 days left of late entries. Get yourself in there.
Yeah.
We'll give you free entries.
Oh, definitely not happening for me. Outside of the pool, then, what kind of initiatives and strategies are you implementing in 2025 for that fan engagement? Like you talked about, this is the spectacle, so you've got people listening to this. Sell them now of why to come see. What is actually going on outside of the pool?
You know what? I think we've done a really good job this year of creating it as an event, not a swimming competition. So, there's loads of things I could talk about. Obviously, we've got our golden tickets, which are on poolside. It's obviously they're a premium price point. They're much more expensive than seats in the stands. But every single swimmer that climbs out of the pool is walking directly past you. You get the opportunity to speak to them, take photos with them, and get your autographs. I think there's only a couple of seats left, so I don't want to sound like too hard because people are disappointed when you can't get them. But obviously, that's a thing we've had in since 2023. But obviously we're very fortunate with Adam's relationship that Gordon Ramsay's happened to open a restaurant. It's the first restaurant outside of the London Aquatic Centre, which is the big wooden building on the left. But every evening when the event finishes, we have a whole floor at Gordon Ramsay Bread Street Kitchen where will be kind of Adam, our sponsored athletes, and other international athletes who we invite in to have dinner for free there. People can come and eat kind of around them and get to spend time a little bit out of the pool as well. So a big focus we've done this year is not stopping the event when the last race touches the wall, but actually what other things can we create that's before the finals and after the finals, whether it's Adam running a couple of masterclasses, we're doing one a day with Adam. We've done venue tours previously with our event producer, John Bailey, where he kind of takes people a little bit behind the scenes and explains how the event itself runs. But this year, we don't want 8:30 or 8:45 p.m. when the last race touches the wall, people go, all right, thanks very much, see you later. But, we've created this additional experience like you would see at a football match, like you'd see at a Formula One series. But I think we've got 150 people between Saturday and Sunday that are coming to kind of like eat around the team and get to spend that time outside the pool as well. So we really want to create it into a proper experience for an event, not just a swimming competition.
And what about in venue then? Because the Americans seem to do it quite well with, I don't know, t-shirt cannons or, lookalikes on the screen that I've gone and seen on Instagram Reels. Anything kind of like that as well to keep the engagement going? Yeah,
so we've done a couple of things. Obviously, again, John Mason kind of being our host is a huge one for us. Obviously, the face of swimming is the best way to put it, I think, for world level swimming. So, again, having John Mason back is a huge point for us. He's exclusive with World Aquatics for federations and stuff, but again, really fortunate to have him and very grateful to have his kind of experience and relationship with the athletes, because I think that gets better.
Very much so.
Yeah, it gets a much better interview out of the athletes who they jump out of the pool as well. This year we've got DJs up on the 10-meter diving board as well.
Finally approved.
Yeah, finally approved. I had that idea from the first year, and I kind of had the resource to actually put into the health and safety kind of documents. But this year I said, it's something really important for me. And I think, you see these competitions all the time where they go, oh, we've got a DJ, and they're kind of just standing there doing something. But our DJs are actually going to be hosting the event. We're going to have the DJs.
MCing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the there's two guys essentially, and myself and Adam have known them for years, and they did Adam's engagement party. They're doing Adam's wedding, so we've got a great relationship with them, and one of them is a great MC, and they're almost going to be hosting the entertainment side of things. You've got the commentators hosting the racing side of things. There you've got obviously John Mason and Adam hosting the competition side of interviews and athlete side of things. So again, we're trying to keep it really busy, so you never feel like you're getting the same thing over and over. You know, 1 minute you'll be listening to the DJs, next minute you'll be listening to commentary, and then you'll be with Adam and John on poolside. So we're trying to create a really dynamic environment.
Yeah,
So
non-stop. Yeah.
we're expecting like lasers and strobe lighting and kind of.
The lights at the venue can't turn off yet, can they? Next year.
Yeah, LEDs are coming in next year. So we've always had kind of like our feature branding wall, and we haven't kind of talked about this previously, but usually we've all kind of just had light pillars. But this year we're going to have LED screens in between each billboard. So I think we've got 7 LED screens that will be live data. So every swimmer that walks out will be the flag, the lane, the name, and then also obviously we've got a huge emphasis on our point system and our prize money. So if you finish you finish your race and you go into third position, all LED screens will then go into the bar charts that pop up and confetti.
There's your budget, because those screens are not cheap.
Yeah,
This is what
I've
we
heard
always
the
say
cost
for
of
Bucks, don't we? Like, this is where Bucks need to say, right, Sterling, oh, they've gone up to second, or Birmingham, oh, they're up to sixth, or something, just to, again, engagement. Yeah.
It's simple understanding of the sport.
100%. And like that's the big thing. That obviously we kind of allocated this £20,000 prize pot in the first year. We're like, look, this needs to be a big focus for us because we want to attract big athletes. But then the way we kind of talked about it, we got a load of feedback the first year of saying, actually, you really made it simple for people to go. Don't worry about the time. They need to hit this time, but it means they get a certain amount of points, which means they're going to win a certain amount of money. We kind of doubled down on that last year, and then this year, definitely, we're really pushing for that to be, that live
It's like
data.
power points.
Exactly. Yeah.
Effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So we're really pushing hard from that side of things as well. So yeah, it's going to be good fun.
Okay, we've done the sales pitch, but where can people go to find tickets and book for this weekend's racing?
Yeah, so everything is on events.aprace.club. That's going to be literally everything to do with the event. So ticket sales, if you're an athlete or a coach, you've got kind of a competition hub that encompasses every single thing to do with the event. So beat sheets, start sheets, finals list, photos, whatever it might be. So events.aprace.club is where everything is.
I think it's probably right to get a prediction out of you, Ed, and ask you who's going to get the biggest share of this prize fund, the 20k prize fund.
I have no idea, honestly, because you have so little of an idea in terms of where people are at in their training. I think if I had to call a few people that I think will definitely be top 3, I'd say you can't bet against Lucas Martins because he's just broken the world record. So even if he's a couple of seconds away from that 400 distance event, you should be pretty high points again. And Harrod, I think she's obviously an amazing competitor and kind of rises to every occasion. I don't think she's really ever kind of crumbled at any point so far. So I think you'd be worried to kind of count her out. But outside of those two, I just don't know where everyone's at in the training. But obviously, anyone we sponsor would be great if they could win it. Kind of doubles down on our investment in them as athletes. And I was chatting to Lauren Cox the other day, and I think we'd posted
50 back, yeah.
Yeah,
You never know.
she could win some really big points in that. And we posted someone on our story, and she texted me and said, "This is great for you. I'm glad you got someone good at the event, but I'd love to win some prize money." So obviously, we just kind of introduce her as one of our ambassadors. So anyone we sponsor would be amazing to see win. But I think if you had to say 2 people, I think will definitely be top 5. Would have to be Lucas and Harrod.
Nice. Well, look, Ed, best of luck for this weekend. I'm sure when I see you on Sunday, you might be a little bit more relaxed.
We'll be all good.
I'm looking forward to getting to London and seeing the newest edition.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks very much, guys. Looking forward to having you.
Okay, Dan, a fascinating insight speaking to Ed about all things AP Race London International. Obviously, we're very familiar, or people with this podcast as well, should be very familiar with the story of AP, what's going on behind the scenes. They're very open and honest when they come onto the podcast, him and Adam chatting about all things business. We've been supporters of the International for a few years now. Like, obviously, schedules last year just clashed with it being my son's first birthday. Fun story, actually, the first edition of the AP Race International, I had to race away from poolside and get home because my wife was giving birth. So it kind of will always clash with our life events. Like, your son is 1 year old this weekend, so you won't be there for this year's edition, but I am going to be there on Sunday, and I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing the difference from first year, because I reckon I've missed that one edition. I reckon there's going to be a stark contrast, and it's going to be something quite special.
I like the fact that kind of what he was talking about at the end with the LED lights and a DJ up on the diving platform. I think that's going to completely change.
You're a man
atmosphere.
for your like American spectacles, aren't you?
Yeah, well, they do it right. I'm not going to lie to you. They do it right. And if Ed
what swimming
and the
needs.
AP team can get anywhere close to that sort of level, then you're in for some treat if you are going.
Yeah.
And I do recommend that you do go, especially on a Sunday, because that is there's some big races going on there. Some big races, but some big summers as well. And kind of like what we were talking about, it's not really about the time.
No, it's not.
It's about getting your hand on the wall, winning the race. I'm all like everyone knows listening. It's all about the drama of the race and making it exciting, and that's what gets me into the seats in the spectator arenas. And I think we're going to expect a lot of that, if I'm honest.
I was going to say, you might get a few weird swims here and there, because I know a lot of the Aquatics GB team are at altitude. Literally, as we're recording this, they are flying straight from altitude and being thrown into this international, which I know is actually a strategy of like the high ups inside Aquatics GB. They want to put the swimmers under pressure. They want to put them under an uncomfortable environment, like when things aren't going to go perfectly for them in a British meet, because it's very rare that happens in reality. So throwing them off the back of altitude and seeing what they can do is all part of as much mental preparations as it is physical preparations for Singapore. Like they're probably not even looking at what times they do. They just want to see what processes they do in the pool, how they handle themselves in an event environment. And it's the event skills that finally we can say in this country we have outside of champs. Like champs is obviously this big one, but it's so good that there's another level. Like there's another step between champs and open meet.
Yeah, I kind of put this meet as, like the Edinburgh International in February sort of time, March time, and it kind of gears you towards trials, whereas the AP International kind of gears you towards the major
Champs.
summer meet.
Yeah, it's another step on
It's
from
kind of
the
like that, isn't it?
international,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's that stepping stone meet that is needed in a swimmer's season.
Yeah, and well, based on he seems quite excited to potentially make it into some sort of European tour as well, or something like that. Take it abroad.
Take it to Beijing by the sound of it.
Well, I think there's potential for it. I'm not going to lie to you, but very exciting things all round, really. I would buy tickets if I were a fan.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting there this year. It's a shame we couldn't go last year. Right, now, to round out this week's episode of the podcast, I do want to remind you guys that we are sponsored and in partnership with One Float Aquatics in Summer Bay, the newest destination for elite and club training camps in Egypt by the Red Sea. We're big fans of this venue. We're obviously partnered with them on this podcast. If you're an avid listener of the podcast, you should know this by now. But yeah, we can't wait to go back out there. There's whispers that we'll be over there in June, which I'm sure will be scorching hot. Dan's going to melt.
I get sunburnt so easily.
You
I
do.
think I've been burnt over here.
But at the same
out there.
time, I can't think of a better place to go if I was swimming, to go train, for us to go watch fast training.
Oh, honestly, I wish I was still swimming. I wish I was still back in my teens or early 20s and having an opportunity
You
to
still
train
could.
out there.
We said to Ed, you almost PB'd at champs.
Yeah, well, yeah. 0.7 is quite far off on a 50. But anyway, yeah, I just wish I was back younger and I had the opportunity to go and train and potentially race, I suppose, in Egypt, because the facility is absolutely incredible. And I'm looking at some of these Olympians that are training there already, the Dutch team, the Italian team, whatever, and they look like they're having the best time and getting some really good work out of themselves. Plus, they love the food. We haven't mentioned the food. And it's not just me. It's not just me that loves the food. They really do love it as well. So yeah, we can't wait. June can't come around fast enough.
Yeah, so if you want to know a little bit more about One Flow Aquatics in Summer Bay, there's a 50-metre pool, 10-lane Olympic 50-metre pool with blocks at both ends. There's 2 outdoor gyms. I think there's an indoor gym, which is pretty much finished at this point in time. We saw it when it was being built. There's 2 options for hotels. There's the Cactus and the Cascade Hotel. The Cascade Hotel comes with multiple golf courses, if you like your golf, which many swimmers do. And like Dan said, there's plenty of different food on offer. There's activities away from it at the marina. You can go-karting, you can go paintballing, you can go snorkeling
pool,
in
which you missed
the
that as well.
There is a 25-metre pool on top of the 50-metre
That's
pool.
the power towers, yeah.
Yep. Everything
you need.
So, if you want to inquire to book your next training camp with renowned agency Sports Abroad, you can use the link in the description of this podcast, and you can drop me and Dan a message at any time. We've had a few clubs message us just asking what was the transfer like from the airport to the pool. How far is that? Just give us a message on social media, and we'll be happy to answer any time. But until then, Dan, I'm going to go enjoy the London International. You enjoy your son's first birthday, and we will see everyone in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.